In this season of Agventures, we have shown you many unique farms, from bison ranches to lavender farms, or dairy farms to even alpaca farms. All are very unique and serve a very important role within agriculture. However, one thing that you'll notice is that most of these farms that we visit for these Agventures are located within rural environments, which that's okay, as agriculture is much needed within these rural environments. But what if I told you that there are some farms that are located within urban environments? Today we are going to be visiting the Binghamton Urban Farm and learning about everything that makes an urban farm unique compared to a rural farm. We're also going to experience other cool programs that are involved with VINES here in Binghamton, New York, that make urban agriculture very impactful to the communities that live in the city. So strap on your boots and let's go agventuring. Howdy everyone, my name is Isaac the Ag Guy and welcome back to Agventures. In this episode of Agventures, we are going to be touring the Binghamton Urban Farm and seeing what goes on here and learning everything about urban agriculture. We'll also be doing some chores here at the Binghamton Urban Farm as well. We'll also be learning about VINES and some of their incredibly impactful programs that they have here in Binghamton. But before we get into that, let's get an overview of the Binghamton Urban Farm. The Binghamton Urban Farm was started by Volunteers Improving Neighborhood Environments, also known as VINES, in 2010. VINES was able to acquire half an acre of land in the city of Binghamton after 4 houses right next to each other were demolished, and the city allowed VINES to start using the land for agricultural purposes. Since 2010, the Binghamton Urban Farm's mission, in association with VINES' mission, has been to provide healthy and affordable food to local residents and combat urban blight within the Binghamton area. You can buy produce from the farm through VINES' Farm Share program, which we'll talk more about later in this episode, and you'll also find their produce at some local restaurants and even at VINES' farm stand. And I can't forget to mention that the urban farm has also grown over the years as well. In 2018, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, or FEMA, funded the city of Binghamton to acquire properties in the city that were within flood-prone neighborhoods. Some of the land is located near the urban farm, and according to FEMA's rules, the land needs to be turned into green space and not residential space. Therefore, the urban farm has been leasing some of the land from the city of Binghamton, which has expanded the farm from a half acre to 2.25 acres. But now that you know a little bit of the background of the urban farm, let's go check out the farm more in depth. So I'm here with Cynthia today, and we're actually going to take a little trip around the Binghamton Urban Farm and see what the farm is all about.
This is our seed starting area. During the summer, it's kind of more just storage and stuff, but in the spring and early summer, we'll do all our seed starting here. We used to do it in a warehouse space that was borrowed from a local food bank, which was really fun because they had no running water, no light because there's no windows, so we had to set up lights, bring all our own water over there. So when we added this, it helped us expand what we can grow here by a lot.
Now you have running water and...
Yep, we have running water, we have heat in here for early crops, electricity, so we can put lights in here if we need to. This is our very first hoop house that was built here. This side looks a little sad. This side's got sweet potatoes. We actually just replaced the plastic on this year. We had problems with things weren't growing well in here, and we weren't really sure why. So we removed the plastic, and we're kind of using our sweet potatoes as like a gauge to see how well things are actually gonna work in here. So that side we kind of just left alone. This side we decided to try to grow it, but it seems to be working.
And what else do you grow at the urban farm?
We grow all types of vegetables. We try to stick to, I guess, what you could consider more conventional vegetables. Our share, we try to make it like more beginner friendly for people. So people who aren't used to cooking with fresh vegetables or aren't used to having access to fresh vegetables, it's not something that's gonna throw them off like wildly. Like you're not gonna get like a radicchio or something that most people don't know how to use. So we try to stick to the basics. So like potatoes, squash, beans, greens, radishes, like stuff like that. So stuff that's more easily recognizable to somebody who's unsure about what they're doing. We are an organic farm, so there's some things that we don't really focus on. Like we don't really grow a lot of corn because it's a huge space taker. You know, we try to grow things that we can harvest a lot of and get a lot of shares to people.
Is there any main differences between rural farming versus urban farming? Like what are some of the big differences you have to do here?
One of the big differences, I guess, is like the type of weeds that we deal with. We deal with a lot of invasives here, especially because it used to be houses here. A lot of people will plant like ornamentals and stuff in their yard, and now they are just a problem for us. Another big difference is that we are always having to be mindful of being good neighbors too. Like we can't just come here at like 5 o'clock in the morning and start running the tractor, because people are not gonna enjoy that noise. I mean, I know that's something that rural farms kind of deal with having to like be aware of the people around them, but it's especially not an issue, but something that we work with here. So other than that, I think things are pretty similar. I mean, we have to also be aware of like chemical use and stuff. That's one of the main reasons we are an organic farm. It's because we are so close to other people. We wouldn't want to expose people to stuff like that. I mean, we also believe in organic farming, but that's something that we have to consider. This is our perennial area of the farm. This isn't really a production area. It's kind of a place where we grow things like different fruit crops and stuff for us to enjoy, for the youth to enjoy. This was a nice area to just hang out in. We actually had this built by one of our volunteers. They just wanted to add something beautiful to the farm. So we have a lot of cool things like elderberry, pawpaw trees, things that you don't normally see on a conventional farm. So hazelnut bushes, pear trees, bees. Yeah, so it's a really cool, it's a nice hangout area. It's not really anything we like use for production. It's just kind of a nice thing to have here. And this area here, it's one of our very first fields. It's really nice, super fertile. One thing I didn't explain is that all the area that we're growing in, all the dirt we had to bring in ourselves. Because there's old houses here, there's always the risk of lead in the soil and other contaminants. So instead of growing in the soil, we brought our own soil, put it on top, started growing in that. So this is one of our nicer fields because it's one of the oldest, and we've amended it a lot over the years, but that's something we also have to contend with, is trying to buy in soil that's decent for growing, but also not too expensive. We're very fortunate that we have city water hooked up, and we have a deal with the city that they give us a discount on the water that we use because we're using so much of it. And we do mostly drip irrigation.
Okay.
So we found that's the most effective way for us. It's easy to set up, easy to use. We don't overuse water. We can water just when we need it, and it goes straight to the plants instead of like using sprinklers or anything like that, where you're gonna be wasting a lot of water on spots that you don't need it. So we do have some irrigation, like sprinkler irrigation set up, but it's kind of just there just in case, but we're mostly drip irrigation, and we have a few hydrants set up around the farm that we can hook into. This area is kind of interesting in that this is our newest fields. part of the challenges with that is obviously it's all new dirt that got brought in.
Right.
And it's not always the most fertile. So we have to work really hard to manage it in the way that we're building fertility on it. So we do that by adding a little bit of compost, but we try to add a lot of like organic matter back into the soil.
Right.
So this is soybean straw that's mulched in the plants. It obviously helps keep some of the weeds out, but it also at the end of the season will till it back into the soil.
Right.
So it's always constantly adding more organic matter into the soil. We also try to use cover cropping to help manage weeds and add organic matter to the soil. These beds over here, kind of an interesting fact, they were kind of an experiment. It was an experiment that kind of worked and kind of didn't. Our previous farm manager before I got here, he created these beds he called them straw bale beds. So he basically lined up straw bales into rows and then filled in the rows with the dirt and the compost. And so over time the straw bales broke down, added more organic matter back in. It was nice in that it made this field more fertile than some of the other ones. The only problem was the straw was not the cleanest, so it brought in a lot of new weeds and lots of bindweed and smartweed and stuff like that. And this is also a cool thing. This is a new project that we're trying to create our own movable greenhouse. So it's on skids on the bottom. We'll eventually add hooks onto it so we can pull it with the tractor and move it. Like I explained with that greenhouse, we had problems with I'm assuming it was like a combination of oversalination and stuff like that that kind of was hindering the growth of the plants. So this is one of our solutions to try to fix that, is that we can constantly be moving it and it's not going to sit in one spot for too long and build up all those salts and stuff in the soil. The plan is, you grow cold crops in the winter and then you can start your tomatoes or whatever and pull the hoop house over the tomatoes and let the cold crops live outside during the summer and then pull it back over in the fall. Still under construction. This is actually built by the youth.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we kind of gave them the materials and the manual and said,
go do it.
Have fun. Yeah. Yep. So they did a good job.
Now that Cynthia's shown us all about the Binghamton Urban Farm, we're actually going to go help out and volunteer on the farm. So follow along with us.
Filling up chips. We'll dump them. We got some help. These are nice wood chips too.
How full do you want it? Fully full?
Well, that's up to you. You're gonna push it, so.
All right, we'll load it.
One thing I do always tell people, I'm like, I'm not asking you to break your back when you're here, especially with our volunteers. Some of them
right.
want to do so much, and I'm like, do what you can, because that's the most important thing.
Yep. Any help is helpful.
Exactly.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Come back with another load. So why are we putting like wood chips down over here?
Yeah, so most of this is for one of our biggest fundraiser events of the year. I keep wanting to say farm raiser. It's a fundraiser on the farm. We are having an event called Flavors on the Farm. So we're gonna have a bunch of different restaurants here serving food. We're gonna have a band here. The band's gonna go here. So we're using the wood chips to kind of create a cleaner environment for people, especially people who aren't used to walking around on a muddy farm. We're definitely not fully committed to nobody walking in mud because it is a farm and that's important. Well, we use wood chips for a lot of stuff here. We get most of our wood chips from the city. They deliver them here. We use them for walking pathways. It also helps make things more accessible for people who have any disabilities or anything or can't get around on like bumpy ground. The wood chips help smooth it out. And then we use them for mulch a lot of times in our row middles. We're always aware not to put them where we're actually growing because we don't know what kind of wood they're putting in the wood chips, and black walnut is a type of wood that'll actually inhibit the growth of certain plants. So we use them for mulching pathways, mulching walkways, all that stuff. So.
Awesome. We go harvest some kale.
So this is our wonderful kale. Basically take the biggest leaves from the bottom, and we're harvesting this for our Flavors on the Farm recipe, which is tomorrow. Very exciting.
Is there a certain place you want me to start?
You can start anywhere you want.
Sweet. And you just pluck them?
If you also see any yellow leaves on the bottom of the plants, just pick them off and leave them on the ground, because it can damage the plant if you leave them on. I think this is my first time cooking with kale, especially baking with kale. I didn't actually know that was something you could do until I found the recipe, and I'm like,
yeah,
it sounds super interesting. And we did a test batch yesterday, and it was actually really good. But we're gonna have a kale cake with apple icing and blueberry filling.
Ooh, that's interesting.
And we're gonna be making a lot of that after work today. Well, after we finish wood chipping and everything.
Awesome. Now we're gonna go weed. We gotta get our gloves on and just go volunteer with that.
We're lucky that we have so much wild edible plants growing around here, but it's also a double-edged sword. It's pretty sure not the best. So I usually prune it back, kind of cut it into like manageable pieces. And after this is weeded, this is just gonna get cover crop for the rest of the season.
Oh, okay, yeah. Take away some of those weeds.
Yep.
As I mentioned earlier in this Agventures, VINES stands for Volunteers Improving Neighborhood Environments, and they're also a nonprofit organization. VINES started as a volunteer-led organization in 2007, where the organization would build community gardens right within Binghamton. Then, in 2010, VINES grew into a nonprofit organization, as over time, demand grew for urban gardens, garden-based education, and especially access to local foods. Today, along with the community gardens and the Binghamton Urban Farm, VINES also manages programs like the Farm Share program and the Grow Binghamton Youth program. The organization is also excited to announce a new project that they have been currently working on. The team has been building their new headquarters, which will give the team more space to hold more community events and activities. The building is still being constructed, but here are the final renderings of what this new and exciting building will look like once construction is finished. Anyways, in the last part of this episode, we'll be showcasing a few of VINE's amazing programs. And I think a great place to start is to learn more about their community gardens all around Binghamton. So we're here with Anna and we're gonna tour the Laurel Community Gardens.
These are some of our community members' garden beds. Yeah, we have like the 12 3/4. I like that. This one's actually my garden. Very proud of it. I have like one watermelon in there. This was the first community garden that VINES built. It's not the first one they owned, but it was the first one they built themselves. And we have like a shed back there to store all of our tools. This is some like the communal stuff they'll plant. So they have like a squash plant there. This is asparagus. It takes a couple years, I think, before you can like harvest it. So they're probably gonna cut it back, and then when it comes back, I think next year they're gonna harvest. And then this was our rhubarb. This was actually One of the members, they had this rhubarb in their bed, but they didn't want it anymore, so they dug it out and stuck it here. These are like where our fruit bushes are. This is like, well, gooseberries actually here, not mulberries. Mulberries are in a tree. So gooseberries, and then we had like some wild blackberries here, and then this was like red currants. And then this bed belongs to our garden like site coordinator. His name is John, and he really likes flowers. He's actually a professor at the university. But yeah, he likes dahlias. They're very nice. I like them. They're very colorful, because a lot of people, they just grow vegetables, but it's nice to have color. And it's good for like pollinators too, because they like the flowers. And then this is Johan's bed. As you can see, he is the community gardens manager. And then over here are a bunch of fruit trees that were planted when the garden was first started, I believe. So like over there, there's one cherry tree, and then there's another one on the other side. And then this big one in the middle is a plum tree. Then there's pear trees, apple trees. But yeah, because of the frost earlier this year, there's not a lot of fruit anymore. Then we just have flowers all over the place. So there's some flowers here, and then that whole section is kind of just by the entrance, it's all just flowers. And it's like for pollinators.
So Cynthia, how does a community garden work?
Basically, they start with an empty plot of land. We build the beds for people, and they can rent out as many beds as they want. People usually do like 1 to 2. So you rent the bed. Everything you grow in the bed is all up to you. You grow whatever you want. It's all for you. The only thing that we ask in return is that people do a little bit of volunteering at the garden to help maintain the property and keep things looking nice.
Okay. And how much is it to rent a bed?
It's an optional payment of $30 for the season. So we ask that if you can't afford it, that you pay for it. But if you can't, then you can rent a bed completely free. And that's part of what Vines does, is trying to get people to be able to grow their own food in any way possible. Everything's their own, unless they end up sharing a bed with somebody and they split the food, but yep, everything in their garden is theirs. So at the Urban Farm, we're going for farm share and commercial use. Right. Community gardens, it's just people gardening for themselves.
Gotcha. Yep. And then like, I know there's a bunch of community gardens that are under Vines, so how is Vines able to like acquire land to be able to, you know, have all these community gardens? Yep,
a lot of times it's just abandoned lots, and Vines will buy the lot, hopefully for like as cheap as possible, and then we own the lot. Right. We can do whatever we want with it. Sometimes the land is donated to Vines. A lot of times through the city, they have a plot of land that's been sitting fallow forever. They offer it to Vines, and we build a community garden on it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Another program that Vines has is called their Farm Share program. This program is really incredible, as Vines uses this program to bring local veggies right to someone's door. Vines is able to use their own produce that they grow right here on the urban farm, and they also work with 2 other local farms to provide produce to everyone a part of the Farm Share program every week. But instead of me explaining about this program, let's learn about it from a Vines member. So Amelia, can you tell me a little bit about the Farm Share program and how that works?
Farm Share is like a veggie subscription program. So you sign up, you get a box of produce every week. You can pick it up in your neighborhood. We have 14 different sites that we bring our produce to. And then we also have a home delivery. And the really special thing about the program is that we've designed it to work for people of all incomes. So we provide up to 75% off to folks based on income. And then delivering it right into people's neighborhoods means that they don't have to have a car to get to their produce. Another cool thing is that we're distributing our produce and also produce from 2 other farms in the area so that they can reach a broader market.
So what does a veggie box actually look like?
It changes throughout the season. So you're going to get the produce that is growing that week. We generally harvest and get the produce out to people either the same day or the next day. We have 3 different size shares for each farm. And so people can get a different size share depending on what's going to work for their households. And our different farms have slightly different kinds of boxes. So we have some that are really geared toward folks who maybe aren't used to eating a lot of fresh vegetables and they want to go with things that are really familiar, easy to prepare, things like cucumbers, tomatoes, lettuce. And then we have shares that are a little bit more, I guess, exotic, you could say. So they'll have things like kale and kohlrabi and, you know, maybe some Asian greens, things like that. So that allows us to really steer people toward the type of box that will work well for their family. And we also have mini shares. So for families who maybe it's just a parent and one kid or a senior citizen, the micro shares work really, really well because it's a very manageable amount of produce.
Right.
And with the discount, those are $4 a week.
Awesome.
You get a 75% discount.
Awesome. And in the boxes, you include like information on like, you know, how you can prepare these foods for like cooking and stuff like that.
Yeah, when people pick up their shares, we have recipes on site. We also have a sample every week featuring some vegetables from the shares. So if they're not familiar with beets and what to do with them, there's a recipe there and a sample that they can try out.
Awesome.
So since we have 14 different locations that we distribute our produce to, we have a lot of moving around of veggies to be done every single week. And our farm share manager, her AmeriCorps members, interns, and volunteers are key to making that happen. So all of the produce arrives here at the farm or is packed here at the farm. We have a walk-in cooler on site where we can store things. And from there, our interns, AmeriCorps members, they load up the van with what they need for, say, 7 different sites, and they go out on a route, they drop things off. About the time they're done, they come back around, pick up any extra shares, the cash, etc. And then we also have a volunteer who does home delivery for us. She'll deliver to about 7 households each day. And then we have some other volunteers, farm share members who are volunteering to just take an extra share from their pickup site and bring it to somebody who lives in the neighborhood that can't get to pick up at a distribution location.
Right.
So it's really a whole network of volunteers,
Yes.
staff,
Yes.
interns, AmeriCorps members who make it happen.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
This is an example of a large share from the Binghamton Urban Farm, so our farm. So it'll get to the distribution site in a bag like this, and people will check out what's inside. They can choose to swap a vegetable if there's something that they don't like. We have swap boxes they can exchange. So in our large share this week, we have cherry tomatoes, we have peaches, summer squash, some dill, collard greens, peppers and cucumbers, zucchini. There's a lot in this week's large share. And then also some Swiss chard. So that's a pretty good amount of produce for a week. So full price, the share is $29 a week. And then with the 75% discount, it becomes $7.25. So that's a pretty affordable box of produce for folks. A great thing about people purchasing our shares is that that money goes back into our youth program and allows us to employ youth throughout the summer and the school year.
The final program that we'll be covering today in this Agventures is the Grow Binghamton Youth Program within VINES. This program is very impactful to the next generation as it empowers kids ages from 14 to 21 to learn more about critical life skills and career skills, all while addressing food security within Binghamton. The program allows kids to be involved with the planting of vegetables within the community gardens here in Binghamton, or even be involved in the process of giving food to residents within Binghamton as well. Furthermore, the program teaches STEM curriculum through agricultural techniques, and it also teaches leadership skills through fun group projects and activities. Speaking of which, let's check in with everyone here in the program and see what they're up to today. So Tajuka, what are some of like the agricultural programs that you teach within the Grow Binghamton Youth Program?
Through the program, the youth do everything that agricultural farmer would do with regards to produce. They do seeding, weeding, they plant in the beds, they turn our compost for us and take some compost measurements from time to time.
So what are some of the career skills that you teach to some of the kids in the program?
Well, the way that our program is designed, the first career skill that we teach the youth in our program is how to be at an interview. We have a group interview process before we select the crew members for the year. After that, we go through our orientation where we cover all of the requirements New York State has for employment and just basic safety and everything on the farm. After that, we also go through resume writing, how to communicate thoughts and ideas. We do a thing called Straight Talk where the youth use a reflective practice to kind of go over what are the changes that they would make throughout their day and within their own pods.
So what are some like projects or activities that you do to teach important life skills within the program?
I think that because our population is so young, like typically we have youth that are just coming and it's their first job ever. One of the important life skills I think that we teach here is how to make decisions that you can stand by. And I think that by allowing them to make decisions on the farm and really having the youth be the motivating factor in how we design our program, it kind of helps them really trust their own decision-making skills. And I think that's a really important life skill for them to have as they go on through their lives.
And what project are they working on right now?
Right now, we are working on making our farm more beautiful. We have a fundraising event coming up that we haven't had since before COVID, and it's our first time, and they're really just taking it on and really making the farm as lovely as I've ever seen it. Yeah.
It's looking good, and they're doing an awesome job.
Great. Yeah, they're really amazing.
So Evelyn, what are some of the cool things that you've done through the Grow Binghamton Youth Program?
We do field trips where we go to different farms and branch out from just our urban farm. So we go to more like rural farms, and it's pretty nice, and not just like plant farms as well. I think we go to like an animal farm at least once a year.
So what are some of the things that you've learned through this program?
Throughout the program, that I learned that there are food deserts, and food is not always as easily accessible to everybody. So like through VINES, it's like sometimes we are able to like set up a stand closer to you, or like even like run it to you if it's like that, like you still can't like get to a stand.
What are some of the things that you've done to help out with addressing food security? Like were you able to help out with the stands, or is it mostly just through the gardening here?
I've been able to help out with our farmers market, our farmers stand, which is like the stands that people can come to pick them up at, and we help pack the shares and help pick the shares.
Awesome. Good for you. That's awesome. So Evelyn, what's your favorite project or lesson that you've done through the Binghamton Youth Program?
My favorite project would probably be when we used to have pod projects. We built a bench once, and it was like one of the only things that finished that year, and it was really cool, and I really like the bench.
Awesome. Throughout this episode of Agventures, we have showcased all the amazing things that VINES does to provide healthy, affordable, and sustainable food to those in need. Not only that, but we have seen VINES provide educational and leadership lessons through their programs to build stronger communities. But as I mentioned earlier in this video, VINES is a nonprofit organization and is always welcoming your help or contribution to one or many of their programs. Here's how you can help. For more information on how you can donate to VINES, you can visit www.vinesgardens.org and see what payment plan works for you under their donations tab. And if you're a local in Binghamton, You can also visit their website and learn how you can volunteer in a VINES program. Any donation or contribution is very much appreciated. We'll also be sure to include links in the description of this video to VINES website and social media where you can learn more about their programs and see how you can help as well. Wow, what an incredible and inspirational day we had here at the Binghamton Urban Farm and at VINES. We learned a lot about what goes on at an urban farm, and we even learned that urban agriculture can provide food and resources to communities in Binghamton. And I know that I learned a lot today about how urban agriculture can be very much different, but still as important as rural farms or rural agriculture. Anyways, a huge thank you to everyone at VINES for showing us around today and for providing incredible insight into what urban agriculture is all about. And especially thank you to VINES for allowing us to record, edit, and post this Agventures to YouTube. And finally, as always, thank you to all of you out there for watching this video. If you like this video, please feel free to give it a big thumbs up. If you enjoyed the content on this channel, please feel free to subscribe to Agaholics and ring the bell for notifications on when new videos are posted on the channel. But thanks again for watching and stay safe out there, y'all. About athletes or celebrities.
Difference. Sometimes the whole plant comes off, no problem. Just put it back in the ground.
I am a Christmas tree pro.
You are. I was just rejected.
So majestic. This is gorgeous creatures. Go Bills, am I right? It smells so good. Ooh, got the pink shovel.
Yeah.
Just dump her out.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And if you
Trust me, I do this every single time.